What's up, you guys? Welcome to my channel. My name is Chelsea if you are new here. Today's video, I'm going to give you some thrifting tips so that you can do your best thrifting. I'm going to try to go through these fairly quickly because I think I have about 15 of them, so I don't want this video to go on and on and on. So let's go ahead and get right into the video. All right, tip number one, we're starting with a simple one. Find out if the stores that you go to have a rewards program of any kind and get signed up for it. This could get you extra deals, extra coupons. Some do a punch card where you'll get an extra percentage off after so many purchases. It's really simple. You might think, oh, the thrift store is already not expensive. Sign up for any deal that you can get. It's really simple. Check if there's rewards, and if there is, get signed up. Tip number two, find out the restock schedule for your store. Sometimes people will comment on my videos and they'll say, I go to the thrift store on the weekend and there's just, it seems like there's nothing really there. Find out when your store restocks their items, because by the time you're going, everything might have been picked through already, and that could be the reason why you feel like you're not finding any of these really great items. So once you know the restock days, make sure to get there on the day or as close to the day as possible to get the best, newest things. Tip number three, make a master thrift list. Sometimes when you go to the thrift store, it can be really overwhelming if there's a ton of things, and you might forget what you came for. I have a constant running thrift list in my phone of things that I'm kind of on the hunt for. I used to try to just remember everything. That did not work. I would get home and think, oh my gosh, I forgot that I was looking for something like this, and then I missed out on an opportunity to maybe find an item on my list because I was too focused on whatever was my main priority for that day. Having a thrift list can also keep you really focused. Sometimes you can get into something where you're just wandering the aisles kind of aimlessly, you're not really too focused on what's there, and because of that, you really don't get anything done. Have a list, bring it with you, and just remove things as you find them. Tip number four is to take pictures of the area when you're looking for a specific item. So let's say you're on the hunt for a great chair for a reading nook. Take a picture of the corner or the little area that you want the chair to go in so that you can get a visual of what that chair might look like in the space. Take it with you on your phone, and then when you find something that you think might be a good fit, pull up the pictures and try to visualize how you think that chair would look in that space. Sometimes you might see that it's just not the right aesthetic fit. Part B of this tip is make sure you know your measurements. This is especially true if you have a very specific space that a piece needs to go in. Make sure it fits. Part C to this tip is bring a measuring tape if you need to. The worst case scenario is you pay for a piece of furniture, you get it all the way home only to discover that it does not fit your space. So bring pictures, bring your measurements. Don't waste your time bringing home a piece that is not going to work for you. Tip number five is to not get sucked in by thrift store prices. I have done this too many times in the past, and I'm trying to get better with it. Sometimes when you're a little bit ambivalent or you're just not sure if you want a piece, you'll think, oh, it's only $3.99, I'll just bring it home. But then $3.99, $4.99, $5.99, 99 cents, those things just really add up, and suddenly you end up with a pile of things that you really aren't even sure that you need or have a specific purpose for. So what I do is I ask myself two questions. One, what purpose does this fill for me? And if I don't have an answer, I probably pass on it. But the second question is, if I take this home and I don't know exactly what I'm doing with it, what is going to happen to the item? If your answer is sit by the door, sit on the table, sit somewhere and just collect with the other pieces that you brought home that you don't have a purpose for, leave it behind. It could be a treasure for someone else, and it could be exactly what they're looking for. If you don't need it, if you don't have a plan for it, don't get sucked in by the low price, just leave it on the shelf. Tip number six is another super simple one, and that is anything that plugs in, plug it in before you take it out of that store. If it's a lamp, if it's an electronic, if it's a crock pot, ask them to plug the item in before you take it out of the store. Thrift stores try to do their best with items, but sometimes something sneaks through. And it's just no fun to waste your money on something that isn't going to work when you get it home. So ask to plug it in before you leave the store and pay for it. Tip number 7 is to build relationships. When you go to the same stores often, try to make an effort to socialize a little bit or learn the employees' names. When you build relationships with people, they remember you. And when you're checking out frequently or talking about the items that you look for or you might be on the hunt for, those employees may remember you, and there's a chance that when new things come in, if they think something might be a good fit for you, they may put it aside. There's also a good chance that the employees might tell you about discounts coming up or, when they're expecting new inventory in. Just building relationships is a great way to maybe get a little bit of a leg up or maybe be thought of when something comes in that might be a great fit for you. Tip number 8 is to find out if the store has a social media page and go give it a like and a follow. This will tell you what's new in the store. A lot of stores use social media to show people what new is in their store, what has arrived and they're going to be putting out. There have been times where a page I've followed has uploaded a picture of something. I've sent them a DM, said, hey, I love this. I can be there in 30 minutes. Will you hold it for me? They said, sure, no problem. I went and got my item. Stores that are really active on their social media and share photos are often checking their DMs to see if anyone's reaching out to hold things. Not every single store is going to hold things. Sometimes they don't do it, or sometimes they don't check their DMs in time, but I have definitely found that a lot of stores are willing to hold items if you can get there quickly. They're not holding things for you for a week, but if you're able to get there, within an hour or a few hours, there's a chance that they'll hold the items for you, so you get to see the new stuff and there's a chance you can get a first dib at it. Tip number 9 is another social media one, and it's to make the social media work for you. So let's just say a Facebook page. When I find a store that I like and I find their Facebook page, I like it, I follow it. Facebook then says, oh, Chelsea likes thrift stores. Facebook is then recommending to me other local pages of stores in my area. I have found a bunch of stores this way. And you might be feeling like, well, I could just Google it. I am telling you, there are a lot of stores that do not come up in Google. A lot of stores don't necessarily have a website. They might just have a Facebook page, so they're not ranking in a search engine necessarily. I will also say when I Google, the big name stores like the Goodwills are pretty much the only thing that comes up. So a lot of my smaller thrift stores or family-owned thrift stores, I have found because they've been suggested to me on Facebook because I liked other similar pages. So that's a great way to use one page that you're following to get recommendations for other similar pages or similar stores that might be in your area that you never knew about. All right, tip number 10 is an important one, and it's really about the greater good for the thrifting community. And that is to be a quality donator. So what I mean here is thrifting has absolutely exploded in the last few years. There are countless people who will go and spend hundreds in the thrift store just to resell items on their shop. You'll find, a vintage Mickey Mouse shirt that they paid $5 for, and they're listing it for $45 on their website. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. That's your business. But what I am saying is when all of these items are being taken out and quality items aren't being donated in return, it really reduces the supply. And one of the things that I will say is I am a person who has the luxury of going to the thrift store because I really enjoy it. There's a lot of people that have to go to the thrift store because they just can't afford anything else. And I'm not trying to say that's your problem or you're not allowed to buy quality things. Like I said, I go to the thrift store as well. But I would definitely encourage you, if you have quality items that if you're looking to get rid of, it's just a great idea to donate them to the thrift store. We keep the stock up. It's great when there's enough for everyone. The other part of this, and I know you guys aren't doing this, but some people do. Don't treat the thrift store as your personal garbage can. If you have a very broken item or stained or dirty item, do not drop it off at the thrift store just to get rid of it. Properly dispose of it, be responsible, because sometimes when the bins fill up, they stop taking donations. If it's getting filled with junk, then there's not room for good quality items to come in. And you're also just wasting the employees' time having to then dispose of the stuff that you should have just disposed of on your own. The thrifting community can be just so awesome, and when we're donating and people are getting the opportunity to buy, it just fosters a really great environment. So if you have quality items or, gently used items, donate them. Don't just throw them out. All right, tip number 11 is to make your move shortly before closing. Now, this is admittedly a bit of a risky tip, but if you're somewhere like a flea market, vendors have to pack all their things up at the end of the day and take them back home. So if there's an item that you want to get maybe a better deal on, pop in right before closing and offer them a lower rate, because sometimes they'll say yes because they just don't want to load the stuff back up. Now, the obvious risk with this is you're walking away from an item. Someone might come along between then and closing and buy it for full price. So I definitely don't recommend this for something that you are in love with. But if you're thinking, yeah, I would do it for this price, and if it's there, great. If it's not, that's a great time to circle back at closing, see if it's there, and then make them an offer that they might be willing to take because they just don't want to load it up again. Tip number 12 is to thoroughly inspect your items, and that includes a sniff test. Sometimes at the thrift store or, especially at a flea market or something where, the pieces are in literal fresh air, we might not notice it as much, but you've got to get down there, sniff that fabric, sniff that piece of furniture, because there are some odors that are just a nightmare to try to get out. And you don't want to take that piece home and deal with it if that's the case. Check drawers, check for fractures in the structure of the piece, really give it a good once over, and of course, we want to be looking for bugs. Look for bug droppings, look for bug shells. I'm sorry, that's so gross, but you really just want to be careful about the things that you're bringing into your home, both for your home safety, but also you don't want to end up with a project that is far more complicated or needs far more work than you either intended or are capable of. So just make sure you are really looking over that item. Tip number 13 really applies if you're looking for a furniture or a larger scale piece, and that is find out what the situation is with the thrift store, flea market, etc. before you go. Do you have a car? Do you have an SUV? Do you have a truck? How will you get that piece home? Does the thrift store do holds? Some thrift stores will let you buy something and give you a ticket as long as you come back to pick it up within 7 days. If that's the case and you can get a friend to loan you their truck, great. But if not, especially if it's like a flea market, they expect you to be taking that stuff out of there right away. How far is the vendor from the car? Some flea markets are on a really large piece of property and the parking lot might be quite a while away. Do you need a dolly or a push cart to get the item out? Do you need a friend to help you get the item out? You gotta think through the logistics so that you don't find the perfect piece and then realize you have no way to get it home. So think about all those logistics, and that also goes with getting it inside. Do you live in an apartment building? Is there an elevator? Is your friend gonna help you carry that giant armoire 8 flights up steps? If so, that's awesome, but just make sure you're really prepping for any logistics so that you don't have to leave your dream piece behind. Tip number 14 is to buy solid furniture. Listen, I'm not hating on IKEA, I'm not hating on any of the brands that might use furniture that's made of like particle board or different things like that, but the thrift store often has really great quality hardwood furniture, and you can get it for a really great price. So if you can get a really solid piece of furniture for about the same cost that you would buy like a particle board piece of furniture, take the better piece of furniture, because the other part of that is if the time comes when you don't need it anymore, if you don't want to donate it back, if you maybe really need some extra cash and you want to sell it, then you are going to make probably a little bit more money on a solid piece of furniture than you are from something that's made of, like I said, particle board. And I'm not saying particle board furniture is terrible or you shouldn't use it. I'm just saying that if you have the opportunity to get really solid furniture, take it. And tip number 15 is you have to know when to say no. I call this the if I just. So what I used to do was I would find a piece and I would say to myself, if I just give it a new coat of paint, I can really bring this back to life. All right, a new coat of paint's not bad. If I just give it a new coat of paint and I replace the hardware, this could be a fantastic piece. All right, new hardware and paint, still not that bad. It's when you start getting into, if I just give it a new coat of paint and I just replace the hardware, and I just repair the structure, and I just replace the leg. When you start adding way too many if I justs, it might just be the best to say no. Leave the piece there. You've got to be honest with yourself about what type of project you want to take on or have the ability to take on. And I know that I am a person who can see a piece and think of its great potential, but when I find myself doing too many if I justs, I know that I probably need to just leave the piece behind and find something that can be a better fit for my needs. So sometimes even through the potential, you've just got to say no if it's just too much. Alright guys, so those were some thrifting tips. I really hope they come in handy. A lot of those things I have learned the hard way throughout my thrifting years, but it is just such a joy. And again, I want to say to you, specifically about the part about donating to thrift stores, if you are a reseller, it's okay. I'm not telling you you can't or you shouldn't or anything like that. You should do whatever is best for you. I'm just trying to encourage everyone, myself included, to make sure that we keep donating so that the thrifting supply is up and we can all just thrift as much as we want to, because it's a lot of fun. So I want that for all of us. So with that being said, let me know if you've got another great tip. Leave it in the comments so we can give all the tips out to everyone. And make sure you like this video if you enjoyed getting thrifting tips from me. If you'd like to see more from me, you can subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, I will see you guys for the next one, and take care of yourself in the meantime. Bye guys.